This first one is by Dan O'Quinn, whose other job, besides fishing as far as I know, is delivering sailboats. I sent an email to him, he didn't answer. I was going to send him another one, I got a surprise one, saying he just landed after delivering a sailboat from San Francisco. Not a bad job. He sailed it up the coast, he was driving in a truck. He's a better poet than lots of them. One of the problems with this is that they haven't yet sorted this out about who's a really good poet to read for other people or who gets published and all that. And there are a lot of poems that are very personal and about loss. And this is a funny poem about loss and not personal. The Captain's Lament. I don't know why I've been thrown on the beach. It wasn't all my fault. I've had these stripes for 27 years. The blood in my veins is salt. Yet here I sit on a stool in a bar, my reputation in rags. The whole bloody cluster fiasco began by folding a flag. We were fully laden and harbor bound. The pilot was running the show. The cadet had H flag on the hoist, and G was ready to stow. What's that, you say? What are the flags H and G? They're signal pennants, of course. G flag means I'm in need of a pilot. H means we've got one aboard. You soak up knowledge when you follow the sea that nobody knows ashore, like pennant flags and whistle signals and all that nautical lore. It's called seamanship, the maritime arts. It's your sailing badge of pride. But a guy has just one slight mishap, and it all gets tossed aside. So young Perkins, our plebe, had the pennant, striving to get a good fold. His knotted brow and baffled look were comic sights to behold. So I grabbed one in. This here is how it's done. You've got to crease it just so. He gawped at me, more puzzled than ever. Now let go, says I. Let go! As it happened, the second mate walked in just as I gave that last shout. He'd been out on the bow with the anchor crew, preparing to run it out. He somehow thought I was talking to him, and that was his mistake. When he called up to the bow, let her fly, they released the windlass brake. Now the danger of dropping your anchor while steaming at harbor speed is that every fathom of chain runs out. Disaster's guaranteed. It all went rattling out the hawse. At the end she caught up short, then shattered with a horrific sound, and the ship veered off to port. I know it sounds strange, but at that moment, lights all blinked out ashore. We were passing over a cable zone. The anchor might have tore through a major electrical feeder, though we'll never really know, since we lost that anchor and all that chain, probably still there below. But as it grabbed for that second or two, it wrenched our bow around. Hold on, I cried as the compass swung. I was sure we'd run aground. We did mow over a channel buoy. It clattered along our side, and the steering got a little dicey as we fought a ripping tide. But we staggered off on a brand new course. The ship was still making way, and I saw we were bound for a river that fed down into the bay. I breathed a sigh of relief. I'd have time to make a plan. That's when the middy said, "Excuse me, is that a highway span?" Well, that took the wind right out of my sails, because of course the kid was right. A swinging bridge that crossed the channel was heaving into sight. I gave a jerk on the whistle cord to signal our intent. It jammed in the open position and shrieked till the air was spent. So then I ran down to the engine room and ordered, all full astern. No, dinner was great, said a cheery voice. My piece of fish wasn't burned. I screamed, what in the hell are you yakking about? We've got to slow her down. Oh no, sir, this is Riley the Wiper. Hang tight, I'll go fetch Brown. Now I'm freaking. I threw the phone down. It bounced back and barked my shin. Hell's bells, I roared. What more can go wrong? But then I broke into a grin, because the bridgeman, he'd fathomed on right quick. He swung open to let us pass. But in his haste, he never stopped traffic, and onto our deck they crashed. A livestock truck, 3 automobiles, and a school bus full of scouts were spilled and sprawling on the deck. The air full of groans and shouts. The semi discharged a full load of pigs when it slammed into our steel. As they ran amok and bowled down the scouts, both parties began to squeal. Up on the foredeck, the crew had been quick when they saw the bridge ahead. They made ready and dropped the starboard hook right into the bridgeman's shed. A shower of sparks shot up in the air and the bridge began to swing. It crumpled as it struck our starboard bow and shrieked like a living thing. Back at the stern, we had other trouble as the ship ground to a halt. Our escort tug was following too close, but that was their skipper's fault. They ran under our starboard quarter, their bow pushed down by our stern, until they met our propeller, which still continued to turn. At least it did up until that moment. And then it stopped with a thud as it neatly sheared off that tugboat's bow and sent it toward the mud. My mate dropped a hawser down to their deck and hollered to make it fast. But I guess his aim was none too good, because it fouled their radar mast. Since the radar antenna was spinning, the hawser wrapped around its neck. When we used the capstan to haul her back, it ripped the mast off the deck. We finally got a line down to their stern, which their deckhand made secure. And all the while their skipper was screaming in a manner most immature. I've no idea why he was so upset. That line helped keep them afloat, just long enough that they had time to safely abandon their boat. You might think that he would have been thankful, but he just kept giving lip about how I should do impossible things with my body and my ship. Action ebbed, since now we stood, held fast by mangled steel. Oops. We were gripped vice-tight in the bridge works. The tug jammed under our keel. The bridge house smoldered in a smoky haze. Lights winked on around the bay. The Boy Scouts rounded up all the pigs as their good deed for that day. I grabbed the ship's log and took down names of all the people involved so our firm could collect for damages as the case became resolved. But did they appreciate my efforts? Not one little bit. When the company lawyers came on board, they just told me to pack up my stuff. So here I sit on a stool in a bar, my reputation in rags. I still can't believe that all that chaos began by folding a flag. In the end, well, maybe I am to blame. I could have averted our plight if I taught that kid there was no need to hoist signal flags at night.